Kia ora koutou. Welcome back to all those young men in years 10 through to year 13. Welcome to all those young men who are new to Palmerston North Boys High School, not only in year 9 but in those other year groups as well. I trust you all had an enjoyable break and that you're ready for the new school year. As the oft-quoted Yogi Berra once said, it's deja vu all over again, because clearly we would prefer to start the year with the traditional assemblies, but the current situation with COVID means that yet again we've had to adapt. We had all hoped, of course, that we'd seen the end of the disruptions caused by the pandemic, but it is what it is, gentlemen, and we have to get on with the new school year. There are, of course, a number of rules and restrictions that we will need to adhere to as long as we are in the red traffic light setting. They're not ideal, of course, but needs must while we continue to be under this cloud. So while I would of course prefer to be addressing the whole school together in the hall, that can't be done. And so we must make do with this riveting presentation. Much of what I will discuss today will be familiar to the majority of you, but it certainly doesn't hurt to cover some familiar ground and remind you of our expectations and of the standards of our school. Some found these difficult to live up to last year, and some sought to blame external factors for these challenges. But the simple fact of the matter, gentlemen, is that there is no excuse for poor behaviour or poor attitudes. And you know what we expect of you. That is for each and every one of you to do your best, to try hard, to apply yourself in and out of the classroom. We expect you to behave yourselves. In my Palmerstonian report at the end of last year, I noted the change in behaviour throughout our country. There seems to be more anger, more resentment. There's been a rise in selfishness, intolerance and an antisocial behaviour. There are some who've used COVID as an excuse to act inexcusably. There's an undercurrent of meanness and an as long as I'm okay, who cares what happens to anyone else mentality. And it's been disheartening to see. One can only hope that once we are back to normal, the divisions in our society can be repaired and people will return to treating others with respect and consideration. And really we only have to worry about the arrogant and inconsiderate drivers of black double cab utes. So all of you have the opportunity to start the new year afresh. And for some of you, that's what's needed. For those who did not achieve your potential last year, mostly through indolence or a lack of organisation or a combination of both, which of course is never ideal, this year gives you the opportunity to get back on track. That said, many of you did well and will be looking to build on your academic successes of last year. Many of you will already have in mind what it is you want to achieve in 2022, and you will have set goals to work towards. Make those goals challenging as well, gentlemen. Earning something through hard graft is infinitely more satisfying. Success will not simply land in your lap. For some of you, those goals may be outside the classroom and co-curricular activities. So let's hope most of those are still able to go ahead. We want you to be aspirational, gentlemen. We want you to take advantage of the opportunities on offer here at school. We want you to do your best. We want you to meet challenges head on and be resilient. And we want you to be positive. We want you to have a good year in and out of the classroom. So it is important that you start the year as you mean to continue, and that in 2022 you make the most of every day. Make decisions for yourself. Tackle challenges yourself. You don't need your parents organising meetings for you or asking questions of staff that you could easily ask yourselves. You're big boys now. You're old enough to do that for yourself. You also need to understand that our expectations apply equally to all of you. If you have your phone confiscated, don't whine about it. You know the rules. If you are held to account for a poor attitude or behaviour, then cop it. Don't sulk or try and lie your way out of it. Sort your attitude out and get on with it. So let's have a quick reminder about some of the rules and expectations. You will be reminded of these in your form classes and throughout the year, particularly once we can get back to assemblies. Basic grooming, wear your uniform correctly, shirts tucked in, sleeves rolled up, shorts worn at the correct height, socks up, black leather lace-up shoes or sandals, no jackets on in classrooms. Haircuts. Appropriate haircuts, no gel or other sort of product in your hair, nothing too short, no egregious fades or undercuts. There have been some superb mullets grown over the holidays, but they need to go, of course. No jewellery, no earrings or piercings, It's obvious. Your manners are important, boys. Manners maketh the man. You will have heard me say that on a number of occasions. The way you address staff, Mr. Jones, Mr. or Miss Smith, for example, Sir or Miss, stand when a teacher or a guest enters the room, address staff formally at all times. Fundamental school rules: drugs, alcohol, smoking and vaping, bullying and theft. We don't want any of that here. No cell phones, you don't need them. Walk your bicycle through the school grounds. There are plenty more, of course, gentlemen, but remember that these rules apply whenever you are in school uniform, including to or from school. If you're uptown with your friends or your parents, wear your uniform properly, and don't be surprised if any of our staff members see you, that they will have a conversation with you. What we have to remember, gentlemen, is that the reputation of the school has been built over the last 120 years. Our history and our traditions are important to us. We rely on you to maintain our reputation. I am often contacted by members of the community about you, and you will have heard me talk in this manner a number of times. But each time one of you lets the school down through misconduct or through a slovenly appearance, you let all of us down. You let all of the old boys down. At the opposite end of the scale, when you have done something well, then you add to our reputation. And that's what we want from all of you. To add to our school, not to detract from it. Now, I know some of you are here not because you want to be. The numbers in the senior school are bulging, and they are nearly double what they were just a few years ago. But for those of you who have returned under sufferance, or for those of you who have no clear goals, you need to ensure you're doing the best to give yourselves options and opportunities. Don't waste your or our time by staying on, by not contributing or doing yourself justice. Some of you may have already had enough of school, and let's face it, for some of you the feeling is mutual. For those who find it hard meeting our expectations, or who get sick of being reminded about uniform or grooming, you have a choice. Front up and get on board, or go. If you have that I'm too cool for school attitude, or you think the rules and expectations don't apply to you, don't stay here. Do everyone a favour and clear off. Even though we have some challenges ahead, we need to be positive and make the best of whatever opportunities come our way this year. Now for some quick updates, gentlemen. The holidays have been a pretty busy time for the property team. You will have seen already, perhaps, that a significant amount of concrete has been poured between C block and A and B blocks, as well as at the end of S block and C block. E block has been recarpeted, as has H block. Air conditioning has been added downstairs in E block, and a number of additional security cameras have been added to the existing network. That's just some of the major projects that have been done. As I do every year, I would ask that you treat our school environment with respect. There is a significant number of new staff for 2022, the most we've had for some time, in fact. Normally, of course, I would introduce new staff to the school at our first full school assembly and ask them to stand so that you can put a face to their name. We aren't able to do that, obviously, this year. So please do your best to welcome our new staff to the school this year. They are Mr. Bryant in Social Sciences, Ms. Corney in English and Social Sciences, Mr. Doubledam in PE and Social Sciences, Mr. Essera in English, Ms. Haggis in Science, Ms. Kahn in German, Mr. Kearns in English, Mr. Langley in Science, Dr. Mannering in Science, Mrs. Marshall-Lobb in Te Reo Māori, Mrs. McGeekin in Learning Support, Mrs. Mizutani in Japanese, Mr. Northcott in PE, Mrs. Paku in Te Reo Māori, Mr. Remiros in French, Mr. Randall in Commerce and Maths, and Mr. Williams in the Teacher Aid team. Along with our new staff, Mr. Fogarty is returning as head of the Technology Department after a sojourn in the South Island. Of interest, Mr. Bryant, Mr. Doubledam and Mr. Kearns are old boys, so it is returned for them to the school, albeit in a different guise. We will begin the year with a roll of 1,820 pupils, which includes a Year 9 intake of 411, our biggest yet. We are overcrowded, gentlemen, and as the roll settles in the coming weeks, we need to ensure that subject changes are sorted as early as possible because there is pressure on numbers in senior classes. Thank you to those in the senior school who came in on course confirmation day and so are already organised for the year. Those who didn't will clearly need to see the deans as soon as possible. The year level deans for 2022 remain as they were last year. In Year 9, Mr Cudby and Mr Moore. In Year 10, Mr MacDonald and Mr Meehan. In Year 11, Mr Davidson and Mr McFarlane. In Year 12, Mr McQueen Davies and Mr Vindras. In Year 13, Mr Kensington and Mr Siebert. Dean of Māori Student Achievement is Mrs Marshall Lobb, who joins us as HOD of Te Reo Māori this year. Pacifica Dean is Mr Murphy. Sports and Cultural Dean, Mr Davidson. And Accelerate Program Coordinator, Mr Ben. Senior Masters, Mr Pinder and Mr Van Stiprian will work with the Senior Deans, while Senior Masters, Mr Gibbs and Mr Sinclair will work with our Junior Deans. Your form teachers will go through some organisational detail for you, gents, in the coming days, and we look forward to getting through this next phase and to getting the most out of 2022. So good luck to all of those who work hard and strive to do their best, and let's start the year off in a positive fashion.